If we're looking at a volume question like this one, a right triangle prism has these dimensions, 3 by 1 1/5 by 2 3/5. So that's the prism. That's the rectangular prism. So this bigger one here that we see has these dimensions, 3 on one side, 1 1/5 on one side, and 2 3/5 on one side. It's going to be packed with cubes, little tiny cubes over here, with a dimension of 1/5 on all sides. So that's what it makes it a cube, is it's the same dimension, length, width, and height. So 1/5 on all sides. For this question, how many cubes fit along each side of the prism? Well, if I've got 1/5 and I'm trying to see how many go along the side of the prism, I need to know the total length of the side, and I need to divide it by the size of the group here. So if I've got a total length of 3, I need to take 3 and divide it by groups of 1/5 to see how many groups of 1/5 will fit in 3. How many groups of 1/5 will fit in 1 1/5, and how many groups of 1/5 will fit in 2 3/5. All of these dimensions need to be divided by the dimension of the cube to see how many will fit. This is all to answer the question, how many cubes will fit along each side? And then ultimately that will lead us to be able to answer the question, how many cubes are needed to fill the prism? So let's look at how do we divide. So if I'm going to take 2 3/5 and divide it by 1/5, I would want to show my work where I start with my problem and then I convert both of them to an improper fraction. We want to convert to an improper fraction. So to do that, I multiply 5 times 2, which is 10, and then add 3, which is 13, and keep my denominator 5. So 13 over 5 divided by 1/5. To divide by a fraction, here we're dividing by a fraction. How do we divide by a fraction? What do we do to divide by a fraction? To divide by a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to keep that 13/5 and I'm going to multiply it by 5 over 1, because that's how we divide by a fraction, is by multiplying by a reciprocal. When you're multiplying fractions, you can just go straight across. 13 times 5 is 65. 5 times 1 is 5. 65 over 5, that's just a division problem. 65 divided by 5 is 13. Or we can see that with cross simplifications, the 5s are both divisible by 5, and when we divide that, we're left with just 13 times 1 over 1. And that tells us that 13 of these cubes will fit along the 2 3/5 inch dimension.